The casting studio buzzed with a restless energy, a complex blend of hope, tension, and unspoken judgment that hung thick in the air. Fluorescent lights overhead cast a sterile glow on the expansive room, where rows of folding chairs faced a long table occupied by casting directors, producers, and assistants. The walls, adorned with posters of blockbuster films and faded headshots of past stars, bore silent witness to countless dreams made and broken within this very space. A faint hum of conversation rippled through the room as actors and their agents paced nervously, rehearsing lines under their breath or exchanging tentative smiles with one another. The scent of stale coffee mingled with the faint musk of anticipation, creating an atmosphere both electric and heavy with expectation. Cameras were set up in one corner, their lenses waiting patiently to capture the next hopeful performance, while a clipboard rested on the table, its pages marked with names and notes that would soon determine futures. This was Hollywood's crucible, a place where talent met scrutiny, where opportunity was doled out unevenly, and where dreams were filtered through the unyielding lens of industry standards and biases. The room was a microcosm of the entertainment world's complex dynamics, a space charged with possibility, yet shadowed by the weight of tradition and the subtle currents of stereotyping. Among those gathered, a diverse crowd of hopeful actors mingled, each carrying their own story, their own aspirations. Some dressed in carefully selected outfits that spoke of professionalism and seriousness. Others wore the casual confidence of youth, their faces alight with the belief that this could be their moment. Agents whispered last-minute advice, while friends and family offered quiet encouragement from the periphery, their eyes reflecting the fragile hope that fueled this gathering. Behind the table, the casting directors exchanged glances and murmured observations. Each had their own criteria, their own visions of what the role demanded, shaped not only by the script but by the broader currents of culture and commerce. The weight of decision-making pressed upon them, as they balanced artistic integrity with market considerations and authenticity with the risk of alienating entrenched audiences. The roll-up for audition was no ordinary part. It belonged to a major franchise, one that carried with it a legacy of fans, expectations, and commercial stakes. The franchise's future hinged on this casting decision, and with it, the potential to either reinforce or challenge the status quo of representation on screen. The room was aware of this significance, adding to the gravity that settled like a quiet fog over the proceedings. As the first actors were called forward, the atmosphere shifted subtly, a charged stillness taking hold as each hopeful stepped into the spotlight. The room watched, evaluated, and cataloged each performance with a mixture of professional appraisal and personal bias. The tension was palpable, an invisible thread pulling tight as the audition process unfolded. The casting studio itself reflected the contradictions of the industry. On one hand, it was a site of possibility, where new faces could break through and offer fresh perspectives. On the other, it was a place where old patterns often persisted, where narrow definitions of fit and marketability could exclude as much as they included. The room held within it the echoes of progress and the shadows of lingering prejudice, a space where hope and skepticism coexisted uneasily. Throughout the morning, the ebb and flow of auditions painted a vivid picture of Hollywood's current landscape. Some actors delivered performances that dazzled, eliciting nods and whispered praise. Others faltered, their nerves betraying the pressure that weighed upon them. The casting directors took notes, their expressions unreadable, masks of professional detachment, concealing the complex judgments forming behind their eyes. Among the murmurs and exchanges, subtle undercurrents surfaced, glances exchanged over raised eyebrows, quiet comments that hinted at unspoken criteria beyond talent alone. The phrase "too urban" floated in fragments of conversation, a coded judgment that revealed as much about the industry's perceptions as about the actors themselves. These whispered biases shaped the contours of opportunity, constraining the roles certain performers could realistically aspire to. Yet, despite these challenges, the room also held moments of genuine connection and recognition. A piercing glance, a nuanced delivery, an unexpected spark of authenticity. These rare moments cut through the haze of convention and opened brief windows onto what the franchise could become if it dared to embrace a broader vision. The hopeful actors, with their varied backgrounds and experiences, embodied the possibilities of a shifting cultural landscape, even as the industry's gatekeepers wrestled with the implications. Outside the studio, the city's pulse beat steadily, indifferent to the unfolding dramas within these walls. But inside, time seemed suspended, caught between the past and the future, between entrenched norms and the promise of change. The casting director's decisions would ripple far beyond this room, shaping narratives and representations that audiences would carry with them into their own lives. As the morning wore on, the anticipation grew sharper, the stakes more tangible. Each audition carried the weight of countless hopes, each glance from the decision-makers a potential turning point. The hopefuls moved forward with a mixture of courage and vulnerability, aware that this moment could define their careers, yet also aware of the invisible barriers that might stand in their way. In this charged atmosphere, the casting studio was more than a physical space. It was a symbol of the entertainment industry's ongoing struggle with inclusion and representation. The room held the tension between tradition and transformation, between the familiar and the possible. It was here, amid the flicker of fleeting performances and the silent calculations of those in power, that the future of a beloved franchise, and perhaps the industry itself, was being quietly forged. The door to the casting studio opened with a soft click, and Zendaya stepped inside, her arrival shifting the atmosphere in a subtle but unmistakable way. The low murmur of voices quieted as heads turned, eyes tracing her confident movements toward the audition space. Her presence was a blend of youthful energy and grounded poise, a rare combination that immediately distinguished her from the others waiting in the crowded room. Zendaya's appearance was carefully effortless, a simple yet stylish ensemble that balanced comfort with understated elegance. Her hair framed her face in natural waves, tumbling freely just past her shoulders, catching the light with a gentle sheen. Her eyes held a spark, a mixture of determination and warmth that invited connection, promising something beyond the script. There was an authenticity in her demeanor, a quiet assurance that came not from rehearsed bravado but from a deep-seated belief in her own voice. As she approached the casting table, the room's energy shifted again, a ripple of anticipation threading through the air. The casting directors exchanged quick, measured glances, their expressions a blend of curiosity and calculation. Some wore smiles that hinted at recognition, while others regarded her with the cool detachment of professionals tasked with making difficult choices. The mixture of reactions was telling, a reflection of the complex dynamics that governed these auditions, where talent met preconception in a delicate, often fraught dance. Zendaya greeted the panel with a composed nod, her voice steady as she introduced herself. There was a clarity in her speech, an ease that suggested a well-honed self-awareness. She listened intently as the director outlined the scene, her eyes never wavering from the person speaking, absorbing every nuance with the focus of an artist preparing to bring a character to life. In that moment, the room seemed to narrow, the distractions fading until there was only Zendaya and the unfolding story she was about to inhabit. When the camera began to roll, Zendaya transformed. The youthful spark deepened into a compelling presence, her expressions layered with subtlety and depth. Each line was delivered with a natural rhythm, infused with emotion that felt raw and genuine rather than performed. She moved with ease, inhabiting the space with a blend of vulnerability and strength that made the character palpable, tangible, a living, breathing person rather than a mere figment of fiction. Around the table, the casting directors leaned forward, their pens momentarily still. Whispers ceased as they absorbed her performance, the usual chatter replaced by a focused silence that spoke volumes. There was a tension in their features, a flicker of admiration tempered by the weight of their own expectations and the unspoken criteria that shaped their decisions. Some faces softened, recognizing the fresh energy she brought. Others remained guarded, wrestling with the challenge her presence posed to their preconceived notions. Zendaya's audition was more than just an exercise in skill. It was a statement of identity, a quiet assertion of what she could bring to a role steeped in legacy. Her portrayal hinted at a deeper understanding of the character's complexities, a willingness to explore layers beyond the surface. This was not merely acting. It was a moment of connection, a bridge between performer and narrative that held the promise of something new, something vital. Yet, beneath the surface of appreciation, there were subtle currents of doubt. In the quiet exchanges that followed her performance, phrases like refreshing and authentic were carefully balanced against murmurs of uncertainty. Some casting members questioned whether her style fit the established image of the franchise, while others grappled with the unfamiliarity of her approach. The room's atmosphere was a study in contrasts. Admiration laced with hesitation, excitement tempered by caution. Zendaya, however, remained unfazed by the undercurrents swirling around her. Her composure never wavered as she stepped back from the table, offering a polite smile that conveyed confidence without arrogance. There was a resilience in her posture, a readiness to meet the challenges ahead with grace and determination. Her eyes scanned the room briefly, taking in the mix of reactions, but she held her own space with a quiet strength that suggested she was here not just to audition, but to assert her rightful place. The casting directors resumed their deliberations, the room filling once more with the ambient sounds of shifting papers and low conversations. Zendaya's presence lingered like a fresh breeze, stirring the stale air of convention and inviting reconsideration. Her performance had planted a seed of possibility, a glimpse of what the franchise might become if it embraced a broader, more inclusive vision. Outside the immediate circle, agents and fellow actors watched with varying degrees of admiration and envy. Some recognized in Zendaya a rare talent whose star was on the rise, while others saw the audition as a reminder of the industry's rigid boundaries, a space where even exceptional skill could be overshadowed by entrenched biases. The casting studio, with all its hopes and tensions, had become a stage not only for performance, but for the complex negotiations of identity and representation. As Zendaya quietly exited the audition area, the room's attention shifted back to the next hopeful, but the impression she left was unmistakable. The quiet confidence she carried, the authenticity of her portrayal, and the subtle challenge she posed to the franchise's traditional mold had set a new tone. Her audition was a moment suspended in time, a turning point that invited both reflection and reckoning. Behind the scenes, conversations began to ripple, tentative at first but growing in volume. Industry insiders whispered about the shifting landscape of storytelling, about the need for characters who resonated with diverse audiences in more meaningful ways. Zendaya's audition became a touchstone, an example of how talent and authenticity could disrupt long-held assumptions and open doors previously considered closed. In the days that followed, the memory of her performance persisted among the casting team. It was dissected and debated, admired and questioned, a catalyst for discussion about the evolving face of the franchise and, by extension, the industry at large. Zendaya's blend of youthful charisma and earnest talent had not merely filled the room. It had changed its atmosphere, leaving an indelible mark on the narrative unfolding behind the scenes. Within the walls of the casting studio, the delicate balance between tradition and transformation hung in the air, charged with the possibilities that Zendaya's audition had unveiled. The room, once a container of cautious conservatism, now hummed with a subtle energy of potential change, a silent acknowledgement that the future of storytelling might well hinge on voices like hers, ready to redefine the boundaries of who could lead and who could inspire. The aftermath of Zendaya's audition unfolded in a swirl of hushed remarks and sideways glances, the air thick with an unspoken tension that neither fully acknowledged nor openly confronted. In the quiet corners of the casting studio, fragments of conversation drifted like shadows, revealing the subtle yet persistent doubts that had taken root among some decision-makers. These doubts were cloaked in cautious language, careful not to breach the veneer of professionalism but potent in their implications. "She's too urban," one murmured under his breath, a phrase that hung in the air like a coded signal, understood by those attuned to the nuances of industry parlance. The words were deliberate yet vague, a euphemism that masked a deeper hesitation rooted in narrow, racialized stereotypes. It was a label that carried with it assumptions about mannerisms, cultural background, and market appeal. Assumptions that, while unspoken, shaped the contours of casting decisions in profound ways. The phrase "too urban" was more than a casual judgment. It was a gatekeeper's shorthand for otherness, a subtle barrier erected to contain the possibilities of who could embody a beloved character. It spoke to an industry still wrestling with its own biases, where the notion of fit often meant conformity to a narrowly defined image shaped by years of tradition and commercial calculation. For Zendaya, this coded critique was a shadow that threatened to obscure the brightness of her talent. As these murmurs circulated, Zendaya's team caught wind of the undercurrent, their concern quickly shifting into action. They recognized the pattern all too well, the way that labels like too urban could be wielded to exclude, to diminish, to sideline potential in favor of the familiar. Yet, they also saw an opportunity to push back against this reductive narrative and advocate for a broader, more inclusive understanding of the role and its possibilities. Behind closed doors, her agents and managers convened with a resolute sense of purpose. They prepared arguments grounded not only in Zendaya's undeniable skill but also in the changing tides of audience expectations and cultural awareness. The conversation extended beyond the confines of a single audition, touching on the systemic biases that had long shaped Hollywood casting practices and the growing imperative to break free from these constraints. Within the industry, whispers of change were beginning to circulate. Some insiders acknowledged the shifting cultural landscape, the increasing demand from audiences for authentic representation that reflected the diverse realities of their lives. These voices lent weight to Zendaya's case, framing her not as an outlier but as a harbinger of a new era, one in which the richness of varied experiences could finally find expression on screen. Yet, the path forward was far from straightforward. The coded language of urban carried with it an array of stereotypes that were resistant to easy dismantling. For many, it conjured images and expectations shaped by decades of media portrayals that too often reduced complexity to caricature. Challenging these perceptions required more than talent. It demanded persistence, strategic advocacy, and a willingness to confront uncomfortable truths. Amid this delicate negotiation, Zendaya herself remained a figure of composed strength. She was aware of the undercurrents swirling around her, yet she chose to meet them not with confrontation but with quiet determination. Her disappointment was real, a tangible ache beneath her calm exterior, but it did not diminish her resolve. Instead, it became a source of fuel, a reminder of the barriers she was determined to transcend. Her demeanor in the days following the audition was marked by a blend of professionalism and introspection. She engaged with her team in thoughtful discussions about the industry's challenges, her own aspirations, and the broader significance of this moment. In private, she grappled with the sting of rejection, yet she also nurtured a vision of what could be. A future where talent and authenticity were the true measures of worth, unbound by limiting labels. The casting directors, meanwhile, found themselves at a crossroads. The initial excitement sparked by Zendaya's audition was tempered by a cautious reconsideration, influenced by the coded critiques that echoed in the background. The phrase "too urban" became a lens through which her candidacy was refracted, filtering out some of the nuance and depth that had so clearly marked her performance. This hesitation was not merely about marketability. It was about a deeper discomfort with change, a reluctance to break from the familiar templates that had long governed casting decisions. The tension between innovation and tradition played out silently, a tug-of-war that underscored the complexities of representation in a commercial industry. In the casting studio, the atmosphere shifted subtly as these doubts settled into place. The hopeful buzz that had accompanied Zendaya's entrance gave way to a quieter, more guarded mood. The energy that had hinted at transformation was now shadowed by the weight of entrenched expectations and the inertia of established norms. Yet, beneath this surface, a quiet resistance was taking shape. Zendaya's team's advocacy was a beacon of this defiance, a refusal to accept exclusion based on coded language and stereotypes. Their efforts were a reminder that the industry was not monolithic, that within its structures existed the potential for change driven by those willing to challenge its limitations. For Zendaya, this moment became a crucible, a test of resilience and conviction. The rejection implicit in the phrase "too urban" was a challenge to her identity and her artistry, one that called for a response that was both measured and unyielding. It was a reminder that the path to inclusion was fraught with obstacles, but also that these obstacles could be met and overcome through persistence and integrity. As the days turned into weeks, the undercurrents of doubt and advocacy continued to swirl, shaping the conversations behind closed doors. The coded language of Too Urban was unpacked, dissected, and contested, revealing the limitations it imposed and the possibilities it obscured. Zendaya's journey through this terrain was emblematic of a broader struggle within Hollywood, a struggle to redefine the parameters of representation and to embrace the complexity of diverse identities. In this charged atmosphere, Zendaya's disappointment was palpable but contained, a quiet force that underscored the stakes of the moment. Her resolve, however, remained steadfast, a beacon amid the swirling uncertainties and coded critiques. The phrase "too urban" was not merely a judgment. It was a call to action, a challenge to the industry's entrenched biases and a prompt for those who believed in change to rise to the occasion. The casting studio, with its flickering lights and watchful eyes, became a stage for this unfolding drama, a space where talent, identity, and industry politics intersected in ways both visible and veiled. Zendaya's experience was a microcosm of the larger narrative of representation in Hollywood, a story of resilience amid resistance, of potential constrained yet not extinguished. And so, as the conversations continued and the decisions loomed, the coded phrase "too urban" echoed not just as a critique, but as a reminder of the work yet to be done. A reminder that true progress required not only talent and opportunity, but also the courage to confront and dismantle the subtle barriers that persisted beneath the surface. Behind the closed doors of industry offices, the atmosphere took on a resolute energy as Zendaya's team rallied with a fierce determination to advocate on her behalf. The hushed halls where deals were brokered and reputations forged now echoed with conversations not just about casting but about challenging the very frameworks that had long governed them. Her agents and managers moved with strategic urgency, weaving a narrative that elevated Zendaya's undeniable talent above the coded critiques that had shadowed her audition. In conference rooms bathed in the soft glow of desk lamps, her advocates laid out their case with a blend of passion and pragmatism. They emphasized Zendaya's range, the way her performance transcended simple characterizations, bringing depth and nuance that could breathe fresh life into the franchise. They spoke of her versatility, her ability to connect authentically with diverse audiences, and the cultural relevance she embodied in a rapidly shifting entertainment landscape. Their arguments were precise, supported by clips, testimonials, and a growing chorus of industry voices who recognized the winds of change. The narrative they crafted extended beyond Zendaya as an individual, touching on the broader imperative of authentic representation. It was a call for casting decisions that embraced complexity rather than conformity, that valued lived experience as much as polished craft. Within these conversations, there was an emerging consensus. The franchise needed to evolve, to reflect not only its vast fan base, but also the evolving cultural conversations around race, identity, and inclusion. Industry insiders privy to these discussions sensed a subtle but significant shift. Where once diversity was treated as an ancillary consideration, it was now framed as essential to the franchise's future success and relevance. This growing awareness lent weight to Zendaya's case, positioning her as not just a talented actor, but a symbol of a broader movement toward inclusivity. The pushback against the dismissive label of "too urban" was gaining momentum, signaling early cracks in the walls of traditional casting norms. Yet, this advocacy was not without its challenges. The systemic biases ingrained in Hollywood's casting processes were deeply rooted, their persistence reinforced by commercial pressures and long-standing habits. Convincing decision-makers to move beyond familiar templates required more than logical arguments. It demanded a cultural reckoning, a willingness to confront uncomfortable truths about exclusion and representation. Zendaya's team navigated this terrain with a measured balance of assertiveness and diplomacy, recognizing that change, though imperative, was often slow and contested. Amid these strategic maneuvers, whispers circulated among industry circles about the significance of Zendaya's potential casting. Some producers and creative executives expressed cautious optimism, intrigued by the prospect of a lead who could bring both star power and authenticity. Others remained skeptical, wary of taking risks that might unsettle established fan expectations or marketing formulas. These conflicting views underscored the tensions at play, the push and pull between innovation and tradition, between expanding representation and protecting perceived commercial interests. Within this complex web, Zendaya herself remained a steady presence, her team's advocacy bolstered by her own unwavering professionalism and work ethic. She continued to hone her craft, engage thoughtfully with her supporters, and maintain a poised public image that reflected both confidence and humility. Her ability to rise above the coded critiques and remain focused on her goals impressed even those who had initially questioned her fit for the role. The environment around her began to shift subtly, as conversations about inclusion and diversity gained traction beyond private meetings and whispered debates. Media outlets, social commentators, and cultural influencers started to spotlight the importance of authentic storytelling and the necessity of broadening the scope of representation in mainstream media. Zendaya's audition and the subsequent discussions became part of a larger dialogue about the future of Hollywood, a dialogue that increasingly demanded accountability and change. This growing momentum created pockets of support within the franchise's production team. Writers, directors, and casting professionals who were attuned to contemporary cultural currents voiced their backing for a more inclusive casting decision. Their perspectives added another layer to the unfolding narrative, reinforcing the idea that Zendaya's casting was not merely a matter of talent but a strategic and ethical imperative. At the same time, the industry's recognition of systemic biases sparked introspection and dialogue about how casting practices could be reimagined. Initiatives aimed at increasing diversity and inclusion gained visibility, and conversations about dismantling entrenched stereotypes became more commonplace. Zendaya's case emerged as a touchstone for these efforts, illustrating both the challenges and the possibilities inherent in redefining Hollywood's casting paradigms. The pushback against narrowly defined roles and racialized labels like too urban was part of a broader cultural shift that sought to expand the narratives told on screen. Zendaya's team leveraged this shift to frame her casting as emblematic of a new era, one in which stories could be richer, characters more layered, and audiences more deeply engaged. This framing resonated with stakeholders eager to align with progressive values while also tapping into emerging market trends. Yet, despite these advances, the path forward remained fraught with uncertainty. The industry's deeply embedded structures and commercial imperatives meant that every decision was weighed against a backdrop of financial risk and audience reception. Zendaya's advocates continued to navigate this delicate balance, pushing for change while acknowledging the complexities involved. Throughout these developments, Zendaya's composed response to the challenges she faced became a quiet but powerful statement. Her professionalism, resilience, and commitment to her craft impressed those around her, subtly challenging the initial judgments that had questioned her suitability. Rather than reacting defensively to coded critiques, she focused on demonstrating her value through consistent excellence and grace. This approach began to shift perceptions within the casting studio and beyond. The environment, once tinged with skepticism, started to reflect a cautious openness, a recognition that Zendaya's presence could enrich the franchise in ways that transcended traditional expectations. Her audition was no longer just a singular event but part of a larger movement toward inclusivity and authenticity in storytelling. As days turned into weeks, the narrative surrounding Zendaya evolved from one of doubt to one of possibility. Her team's advocacy, combined with the shifting cultural currents and her own unwavering professionalism, created a space where change seemed not only necessary but achievable. The industry's conversations about diversity and representation gained new urgency, with Zendaya poised at the center of this transformative moment. In the casting studio, the atmosphere began to reflect this evolution. The once rigid boundaries of fit and marketability were being questioned, and new frameworks for evaluating talent and authenticity emerged. Zendaya's audition had sparked a ripple effect, challenging norms and inviting a reimagining of what it meant to lead a major franchise. Amid these shifting dynamics, Zendaya herself remained grounded, her focus not on the battles behind the scenes but on the work ahead. Her composed response to rejection and coded critiques became a testament to her character and her vision, a quiet but undeniable force that was reshaping the narrative not only around her but around the industry as a whole. The subtle shifts in the environment around her hinted at a turning point, an opening for voices and stories that had long been marginalized. Zendaya's journey through this landscape was a beacon of progress, illuminating the complexities and possibilities of change within Hollywood's intricate ecosystem. As the story continued to unfold, the promise of transformation lingered in the air, a promise born of talent, advocacy, and an unwavering commitment to authenticity. In the days that followed the initial waves of skepticism and advocacy, Zendaya's demeanor remained a study in composure and professionalism. She moved through the corridors of the industry's bustling ecosystem with a quiet grace, embodying an attitude that was both grounded and purposeful. Her response to the subtle barriers and coded critiques was not one of confrontation but of calm resilience, a deliberate choice that revealed a maturity beyond her years. Zendaya's work ethic became a focal point for those around her, a testament to her commitment to her craft and her refusal to be defined by the limiting labels that had surfaced. She approached every meeting, every rehearsal, and every interaction with a seriousness that commanded respect, not through force, but through the steady demonstration of her talent and dedication. Her presence was a reminder that influence often grows not from loud declarations but from consistent, measured engagement. Within the casting studio and beyond, observers noted this shift. Where initial doubts had lingered, there was now an emerging recognition of Zendaya's professionalism and the depth she brought to her work. Her refusal to react defensively or be sidelined by coded language subtly challenged the preconceptions that had shaped the early assessments. Her poised responses communicated a confidence that was quietly transformative, signaling that she was not merely auditioning for a role but asserting her place within the industry. This composed stance served as a catalyst for change in the environment around her. Conversations began to take on a different tone, less about whether she fit a narrow mold, and more about how her unique qualities could enrich the franchise. The atmosphere, once tinged with hesitation, started to reflect a cautious openness, as the gatekeepers slowly acknowledged that inclusion was not a concession but an asset. Zendaya's ability to maintain this balance between humility and self-assurance, between patience and persistence, impressed industry insiders who understood the nuances of navigating Hollywood's complex power dynamics. Her attitude was a quiet rebuke to the coded biases that had surfaced, demonstrating that resilience and professionalism could carve pathways where previously there had been walls. Behind the scenes, her team continued their advocacy, buoyed by Zendaya's composed response and the growing momentum around inclusion. They leveraged her professionalism as further evidence of her readiness to lead, framing her as a figure who could embody not only the character but also the evolving values of the franchise and its audience. This narrative gained traction, influencing discussions at higher levels of decision-making. The gradual shift in perception was also reflected in the casting studio's daily rhythm. The initial undercurrent of skepticism gave way to an environment where Zendaya's name was spoken with increasing respect and consideration. Casting directors and producers began to revisit their assumptions, recognizing that their early judgments had been shaped by outdated templates and unexamined biases. Within this evolving landscape, Zendaya's poised engagement was a beacon. Her willingness to listen, to absorb feedback, and to engage thoughtfully with the challenges she faced positioned her as a leader in a space that often resisted change. She embodied a model of influence that was rooted in patience and preparation, illustrating that true power often lay in the ability to endure and adapt. The subtle transformations around her were not lost on those who watched closely. Industry veterans noted that Zendaya's approach was reshaping the dynamics of the casting process, inviting a reconsideration of how talent was evaluated and how potential was recognized. Her composed response was a force that gently but persistently undermined the barriers that had initially constrained her. For Zendaya, this period was as much about internal growth as external validation. She used the moments of quiet to refine her understanding of the industry's complexities, to deepen her craft, and to prepare for the opportunities that lay ahead. Her focus was unwavering, anchored in a belief that influence and success were cultivated through sustained effort rather than fleeting gestures. The environment around her began to reflect this emerging truth. Conversations that had once been laced with coded judgments evolved into discussions about vision, authenticity, and leadership. Zendaya's professionalism became a touchstone for these dialogues, exemplifying the qualities necessary to navigate and transform the industry's entrenched systems. As the days progressed, the casting studio itself seemed to shift in tone. The atmosphere, once charged with guarded skepticism, softened into one of tentative collaboration. The energy that Zendaya brought to the room, a blend of confidence and humility, talent and tenacity, began to reshape the narratives that shaped the franchise's future. Her presence, marked by composure and an unwavering commitment to excellence, invited others to reconsider their own assumptions. The casting directors, producers, and creative executives found themselves engaging with her not as an outsider challenging the status quo, but as a compelling candidate whose qualities demanded recognition on their own terms. This evolving dynamic was a testament to the power of attitude and professionalism in an industry often marked by volatility and uncertainty. Zendaya's composed response to coded critiques and subtle barriers was an assertion of agency, a reminder that navigating complex power structures required not only talent but also emotional intelligence and strategic patience. In this atmosphere of gradual transformation, Zendaya's role extended beyond that of an actress auditioning for a part. She became a symbol of the possibilities that emerged when resilience met opportunity, when professionalism challenged prejudice, and when authenticity was allowed to shine through. Her journey was a quiet but powerful narrative of influence cultivated through presence and perseverance. The subtle shifts in the casting studio's environment were mirrored in the broader cultural conversations swirling around the franchise. Discussions about inclusion and representation gained new depth, informed by the example Zendaya set through her composed engagement with the challenges she faced. Her attitude became a catalyst for reflection and change, inspiring others to reconsider the parameters of leadership and talent. As the process moved forward, Zendaya's poised professionalism remained a steady force, guiding perceptions and opening doors. Her ability to transform rejection into resolve, coded critiques into opportunities for growth, positioned her uniquely within the unfolding narrative. The casting studio, once a site of guarded skepticism, began to resonate with the possibility of genuine inclusion and evolution. Through it all, Zendaya's composed response was a testament to the power of character in the face of adversity. It was a reminder that influence often grows quietly, through consistent excellence and measured engagement, rather than through loud declarations or confrontations. Her journey was unfolding not only as a personal triumph but as a beacon of change within an industry on the cusp of transformation. A hush settled over the production office as a producer, long immersed in the complex task of shaping the franchise's next chapter, revisited Zendaya's audition tape. The room was dimly lit, papers and storyboards scattered across a polished table that bore the marks of countless creative battles. The producer's eyes, weary yet sharp, scanned the footage with renewed focus, searching beyond the surface for the essence of what the role demanded. As the scenes unfolded on the screen, Zendaya's performance revealed layers that had perhaps been overlooked in the initial rush of evaluations. Her portrayal was not merely an embodiment of character, but an infusion of depth and authenticity that lent the role a fresh vitality. Each gesture, each inflection of voice, carried a nuance that spoke to a broader understanding of the character's complexities, a portrayal that transcended simple archetypes and reached toward a more textured human experience. The producer leaned back, absorbing the implications. This was not just about fitting a predetermined mold. It was about reimagining the role in a way that could resonate powerfully with contemporary audiences. Zendaya's interpretation offered a path forward that embraced both the franchise's legacy and the evolving cultural landscape. It was a vision that promised to revitalize the narrative and expand its reach. The decision to cast Zendaya was not made lightly. It emerged from a careful weighing of creative vision, audience expectations, and the industry's growing recognition of the importance of authentic representation. The producer's choice signaled a deliberate break from old casting norms, a willingness to challenge long-held assumptions and embrace change at the heart of the franchise. This moment marked a pivotal shift in the franchise's direction and vision. Zendaya's casting was more than a personnel decision. It was a statement of intent, an acknowledgement that the stories told on screen must evolve to reflect a broader, more inclusive reality. It was a recognition that the franchise's strength lay not only in its history, but in its ability to adapt and grow. Back in the casting studio, the atmosphere began to reflect this turning point. The cautious skepticism that had shadowed Zendaya's audition gave way to a cautious optimism, as stakeholders reconciled the initial doubts with the undeniable impact of her performance. Conversations shifted from questioning her fit to exploring how her unique qualities could enrich the franchise's narrative and appeal. Zendaya herself received the news with a mixture of quiet satisfaction and renewed determination. The journey had been marked by moments of challenge and coded critique, yet her composed professionalism and unwavering commitment had positioned her to seize this opportunity. The role she was about to undertake was not just a character but a symbol of change, a mantle she was prepared to carry with integrity and passion. Industry reactions rippled outward, signaling a broader cultural moment. Zendaya's casting was celebrated by advocates of diversity and representation as a breakthrough, a tangible example of progress within an industry often resistant to change. Media outlets and social commentators highlighted the significance of this decision, framing it as a beacon of hope for authentic storytelling and inclusivity. Within the franchise's creative team, the excitement was palpable. Writers and directors began to reimagine the character through the lens Zendaya's performance had opened, exploring new dimensions and narratives that resonated with contemporary audiences. The collaborative energy infused the production with a sense of possibility and renewal, as the franchise embarked on a path that balanced respect for its roots with a forward-looking embrace of diversity. This turning point also sparked introspection within the industry at large. Zendaya's casting became a reference point in ongoing discussions about representation, challenging other studios and franchises to reconsider their own approaches. It highlighted the commercial and cultural benefits of embracing talent and authenticity, encouraging a reevaluation of casting practices and storytelling conventions. The decision reverberated through the casting studio's halls, transforming the environment from one of guarded caution to one of burgeoning enthusiasm. Stakeholders who had once harbored reservations began to engage with Zendaya's potential as a leader and icon, recognizing that her presence could redefine the franchise's identity and expand its cultural resonance. As production gears turned, Zendaya prepared to step into the role with a blend of excitement and responsibility. Her journey to this moment had been shaped by resilience, professionalism, and a steadfast belief in her own voice. Now, she stood poised to bring a new energy to a beloved character, connecting deeply with a diverse and global audience eager for stories that reflected their experiences and aspirations. The franchise itself was entering a new chapter, one marked by transformation and inclusivity. Zendaya's casting was a catalyst for this evolution, signaling a willingness to break free from limiting conventions and to embrace a richer tapestry of storytelling. The narrative unfolding was not just about a single role but about the power of representation to shape culture and inspire change. Within the walls of the production office, the decision to cast Zendaya was met with a mixture of hope and determination. It was an acknowledgement of the challenges ahead and the opportunities that lay within them. The journey from audition to casting was a testament to the shifting dynamics of Hollywood, where talent, advocacy, and cultural currents converged to redefine possibilities. As the first days of production approached, the energy around Zendaya intensified. She became a focal point not only for the franchise's creative team, but for a wider community invested in the future of representation in media. Her role was now intertwined with the aspirations of audiences seeking authenticity and inclusivity, making her casting a moment of significance that extended far beyond the casting studio. The turning point marked by Zendaya's casting was a beacon within the franchise's storied history, a moment when tradition met transformation and a new vision took hold. It was a declaration that the stories told on screen must evolve to reflect the diversity and complexity of the world they sought to portray. In this pivotal moment, Zendaya's presence was both a promise and a challenge. A promise that the franchise could grow into a more inclusive and resonant space, and a challenge to all involved to honor that potential through their work. The decision to cast her was not just a choice but a commitment to storytelling that embraced change, authenticity, and the power of diverse voices. As production moved forward, this commitment would be tested and realized, shaping not only the franchise's future, but also the broader cultural landscape. Zendaya's casting was a spark that ignited conversations, inspired creativity, and signaled a new era in franchise storytelling, one where barriers were dismantled and new narratives were forged with courage and vision. The set hummed with the quiet intensity of a well-oiled machine in motion, Yet beneath the usual flurry of activity there was a palpable sense of excitement, a buzz that rippled through every corner. Zendaya moved among the crew and cast with a confidence that had been cultivated through months of preparation, her presence commanding in a way that balanced grace with quiet authority. She was no longer just a hopeful auditioning for a role. She had become the face of the franchise, the embodiment of a new chapter unfolding before the world's eyes. Her portrayal of the character was a revelation that quickly captured the attention of everyone involved. Zendaya brought a refreshing depth and authenticity that reshaped expectations and breathed new life into the role. Her approach was nuanced, blending vulnerability and strength in a way that made the character relatable and compelling. Each scene she inhabited was infused with a sincerity that resonated far beyond the script, creating a connection with both cast members and crew that elevated the entire production. The transformation she brought to the character was not merely cosmetic. It was a redefinition that challenged and expanded the franchise's established identity. Zendaya imbued the role with a complexity and humanity that invited audiences to see beyond stereotypes and clichés, to engage with a protagonist whose struggles and triumphs echoed real-world experiences. This portrayal struck a chord with a diverse global audience, many of whom saw themselves reflected in her performance for the first time. As filming progressed, Zendaya's influence extended beyond her on-screen role. Her professionalism and collaborative spirit fostered an environment where creativity flourished. Directors and writers found in her a partner eager to explore the character's layers and push narrative boundaries. Her insights and dedication inspired those around her, creating a ripple effect that enhanced every aspect of the production. The industry took notice swiftly. Reviews of early screenings praised Zendaya's performance as a standout, highlighting her ability to redefine the character with a fresh and compelling vision. Critics lauded her for bringing both star power and authenticity, a combination that enriched the franchise's appeal and broadened its cultural impact. Her portrayal was celebrated not only for its artistic merit but for its significance in advancing representation and inclusivity in mainstream media. Zendaya's emergence as the franchise lead marked a turning point in Hollywood's landscape. She became a symbol of what was possible when talent was recognized beyond traditional confines, and when stories embraced the richness of diverse experiences. Her success challenged industry norms and opened doors for other actors and creatives of color, signaling a shift toward greater inclusivity and authenticity in storytelling. The response from fans was immediate and enthusiastic. Social media platforms buzzed with praise and support, as viewers connected with Zendaya's portrayal on a personal level. Her character's journey sparked conversations about identity, resilience, and empowerment, resonating deeply with audiences around the world. This groundswell of engagement translated into renewed enthusiasm for the franchise, boosting its visibility and cultural relevance. Within the production, Zendaya's leadership was evident in the way she navigated the pressures of stardom and responsibility. She balanced the demands of the role with a grounded humility, maintaining close relationships with cast and crew and fostering a spirit of mutual respect. Her approachability and authenticity endeared her to colleagues, making her not just a star, but a leader whose influence extended beyond the screen. This emergent leadership also manifested in Zendaya's engagement with the franchise's broader vision. She participated actively in promotional efforts and creative discussions, advocating for narratives that reflected the diversity and complexity of contemporary audiences. Her voice added depth and perspective to the franchise's evolution, ensuring that the stories told were both entertaining and meaningful. The industry's response to Zendaya's rise was multifaceted. Studios and executives began to reevaluate casting practices, inspired by the commercial and critical success she helped generate. Her trajectory became a case study in the value of embracing diverse talent and authentic storytelling, prompting a gradual but significant shift in how franchises approached representation and leadership. For other actors and creatives of color, Zendaya's ascent offered both inspiration and opportunity. Her visibility and success challenged long-standing barriers, creating pathways for increased participation and recognition within mainstream media. The ripple effects extended beyond casting, influencing writing rooms, production teams, and executive decision-making circles, fostering a more inclusive industry landscape. Amid this broader transformation, Zendaya remained focused on her craft and the responsibilities that came with her role. She embraced the complexities of her character, continuously seeking to deepen her understanding and portrayal. Her commitment to authenticity and excellence reinforced her standing as a leading figure in the franchise and the industry at large. The franchise itself evolved in tandem with Zendaya's influence. Storylines grew richer and more diverse, reflecting the changing demographics and sensibilities of its audience. The production embraced innovative approaches to storytelling, integrating themes of social relevance and cultural nuance that resonated widely. This evolution was both a response to and a reflection of Zendaya's impact as the franchise's lead. As the project moved toward release, anticipation surged among fans and industry watchers alike. Zendaya's role was seen as a beacon of progress, emblematic of a larger movement toward inclusivity and representation in entertainment. The franchise's renewed energy and vision, anchored by her performance, positioned it for both critical acclaim and commercial success. Within the halls of Hollywood, Zendaya's rise was acknowledged as a milestone, a moment when a fresh voice and perspective reshaped a major franchise and, by extension, the industry's broader narrative. Her journey from audition to lead role became a testament to the power of talent, resilience, and authenticity in challenging and transforming entrenched norms. Her portrayal redefined not only the character but also what it meant to lead a franchise in the modern era. Zendaya's success illustrated that audiences crave stories that reflect diverse realities, and that the industry's future lay in embracing this complexity. Her leadership set a new standard, inspiring both peers and successors to claim their space and reshape narratives with confidence and integrity. In the vibrant energy of the set and the growing excitement beyond, Zendaya stood as a symbol of transformation, a figure whose artistry and presence had catalyzed a profound shift. Her journey was far from over, but already her impact was undeniable, marking a new chapter in franchise storytelling and the cultural landscape it inhabited. The reverberations of Zendaya's success as the franchise lead extended far beyond the immediate production, sending ripples throughout Hollywood's vast and intricate ecosystem. Studios that had once clung to traditional casting formulas began to reassess their approaches, recognizing that authentic storytelling and diverse representation were not only culturally vital but commercially advantageous. Zendaya's breakthrough became a catalyst for this reconsideration, inspiring a wave of initiatives aimed at embracing more inclusive narratives and casting practices. In executive suites and creative departments, conversations shifted from tentative acknowledgments of diversity's importance to proactive strategies for change. Casting directors found themselves encouraged and increasingly mandated to look beyond entrenched stereotypes and to seek talent that reflected the multifaceted realities of global audiences. Zendaya's ascent illustrated the tangible benefits of such an approach: expanded fan engagement, enriched storytelling, and enhanced critical acclaim. This shift was not confined to casting alone. Writers' rooms began to diversify, with studios investing in voices that could bring nuanced perspectives and lived experiences to the narratives they crafted. The presence of diverse creatives behind the scenes contributed to stories that resonated more authentically, capturing the complexities of identity, culture, and community. Zendaya's prominence underscored the necessity of this holistic inclusivity, showing that representation on screen was deeply connected to inclusivity in the creative process. For actors and creatives of color, the landscape began to change in visible and meaningful ways. Opportunities that had previously been scarce or narrowly defined expanded, allowing for a broader range of roles and creative contributions. Zendaya's success served as both inspiration and proof of concept, demonstrating that diverse talent could lead major franchises and draw widespread acclaim. This momentum fostered a growing sense of possibility and empowerment within underrepresented communities in the industry. The franchise itself evolved into a symbol of progressive change, its transformation under Zendaya's lead emblematic of Hollywood's gradual but significant shifts. The production embraced the responsibility that came with this status, integrating themes of inclusivity and social relevance into its storytelling. The franchise's narrative arc became a reflection of contemporary cultural conversations, resonating with audiences eager for stories that mirrored their realities and aspirations. Industry awards and festivals took note as well, with Zendaya's performance and the franchise's inclusive direction earning recognition for breaking new ground. Such accolades further legitimized the movement toward diversity and authenticity, encouraging studios to continue supporting projects that challenged traditional norms. Zendaya's role became a touchstone in these discussions, a celebrated example of how embracing diverse talent could elevate both art and commerce. This ripple effect extended beyond the screen and into the broader cultural discourse. Fans, critics, and cultural commentators engaged with Zendaya's journey as a narrative of empowerment and representation. Social media platforms buzzed with conversations about the importance of diverse role models and the impact of seeing oneself reflected in mainstream media. Zendaya emerged not only as a star but as a figurehead for a generation seeking change through storytelling. The momentum also influenced industry training programs and talent development initiatives. Studios and organizations expanded efforts to nurture emerging creatives from diverse backgrounds, recognizing the need to build sustainable pipelines for inclusion. Zendaya's rise was cited as evidence of the value and necessity of such investments, reinforcing commitments to equity and access within the entertainment field. At the same time, this period of transformation was marked by ongoing challenges and tensions. Resistance to change persisted in pockets of the industry, with some stakeholders reluctant to abandon established formulas or confront ingrained biases. Yet, the growing chorus of support for inclusion, energized by Zendaya's example, steadily eroded these barriers, fostering a more open and dynamic creative environment. The franchise's evolution, propelled by Zendaya's leadership, became a blueprint for other productions seeking to navigate the complexities of diversity and representation. Its success demonstrated that embracing inclusivity was not only ethically imperative, but also a strategic advantage in a competitive and rapidly changing market. The franchise's journey offered lessons in balancing tradition with innovation, honoring legacy while embracing the future. Within this context, Zendaya's role transcended performance. She became a catalyst for broader industry transformation. Her visibility and influence challenged assumptions about who could lead and what stories could be told, encouraging a reimagining of the entertainment landscape. Her success underscored the power of representation to inspire change both within the industry and in the cultural imagination. As Hollywood continued to grapple with issues of equity and inclusion, Zendaya's experience provided a compelling narrative of progress and possibility. Her journey illuminated the pathways through which talent, advocacy, and cultural awareness could converge to reshape an industry historically resistant to change. The franchise's evolution under her stewardship became a testament to the transformative potential of diverse storytelling. The ripple effects of Zendaya's rise were felt in the increased visibility and celebration of diverse creatives across film, television, and digital media. Her success encouraged studios to take greater risks on projects led by underrepresented voices, contributing to a more vibrant and varied entertainment landscape. This diversification enriched the cultural fabric of media, offering audiences stories that reflected a wider spectrum of human experience. Moreover, Zendaya's impact extended into mentorship and advocacy, as she used her platform to support emerging talent and champion initiatives aimed at fostering inclusivity. Her engagement with these efforts reinforced the interconnectedness of representation at all levels, from casting to creative development to executive leadership. Zendaya's role exemplified how individual achievement could fuel collective progress. The cultural resonance of this shift was evident in the enthusiastic reception of the franchise's new direction by audiences worldwide. Viewers responded not only to the quality of storytelling but to the authenticity and inclusivity embodied by Zendaya's portrayal. This connection deepened fan loyalty and broadened the franchise's appeal, demonstrating the marketplace value of diverse leadership and narratives. In the evolving tapestry of Hollywood, Zendaya's journey marked a significant thread, one woven with talent, resilience, and a commitment to authenticity that challenged and expanded industry norms. The ripple effect sparked by her success continued to inspire change, fostering a media environment increasingly reflective of the world's diversity and complexity. As the industry moved forward, the lessons gleaned from Zendaya's rise informed ongoing efforts to create spaces where diverse voices could thrive. Her story became a beacon for those advocating for representation, inclusion, and equity, illustrating the profound impact that one individual's breakthrough could have on an entire cultural landscape. The cultural conversation sparked by Zendaya's journey extended well beyond Hollywood studio walls, weaving their way into public discourse and social media platforms where fans, critics, and cultural commentators alike engage deeply with the themes of representation, inclusivity, and the breaking of long-standing stereotypes. Her ascent became a catalyst for broader reflections on identity and empowerment, resonating with audiences hungry for stories that mirrored the complexities of their own experiences. Fan communities erupted in vibrant discussions, sharing personal narratives of connection and inspiration drawn from Zendaya's portrayal. Social media feeds filled with heartfelt testimonials, artwork, and videos celebrating her as a role model whose success embodied perseverance and authenticity. These expressions of admiration underscored the profound impact that seeing oneself reflected on screen could have, transforming entertainment into a space of affirmation and possibility. Critics and cultural analysts joined the dialogue, dissecting Zendaya's influence not only as an actress but as a figure reshaping cultural norms. Thought pieces and interviews explored how her journey challenged reductive narratives that had historically marginalized actors of color, highlighting the significance of her casting in shifting paradigms of mainstream storytelling. Her story was framed as emblematic of a larger movement towards equity and inclusivity in media. This wave of discourse invigorated conversations about the power of media to shape societal perceptions and the importance of diverse representation in fostering empathy and understanding. Zendaya's experience became a reference point in debates about how authentic portrayals could dismantle stereotypes and open pathways for more nuanced narratives. Her presence was celebrated as a beacon of progress in an industry often criticized for its lack of diversity. The momentum generated by these conversations fueled initiatives aimed at supporting diverse talent, both emerging and established. Organizations dedicated to mentorship, education, and advocacy found renewed energy and visibility, leveraging the cultural capital Zendaya's success had cultivated. Her journey was cited as a compelling example of the transformative potential of sustained commitment to representation. Within fan circles and beyond, Zendaya's story inspired a generation of young people, particularly those from marginalized communities, to envision possibilities previously deemed out of reach. Schools, youth programs, and community organizations incorporated her narrative into discussions about identity, ambition, and resilience, using her example to foster confidence and encourage creative expression. Her impact extended into realms of personal development and social empowerment. The broader cultural impact also manifested in shifts within media criticism and scholarship. Academics and commentators increasingly examined the intersections of race, gender, and representation illuminated by Zendaya's rise, contributing to evolving discourses on media literacy and cultural studies. Her journey became a case study in the ongoing analysis of how popular culture reflects and influences social dynamics. Zendaya's role as a cultural icon was further cemented by her public engagements and advocacy work. She used her platform to speak candidly about the challenges and responsibilities associated with representation, emphasizing the importance of authenticity and the need to support systemic change within the entertainment industry. Her voice added nuance and depth to conversations about diversity, moving beyond symbolism to address substantive issues. This engagement resonated widely, reinforcing her status not only as a celebrated performer, but as a thoughtful leader and advocate. Interviews, panel discussions, and keynote appearances showcased her articulate reflections on identity, artistry, and social justice, inspiring audiences and industry peers alike. Zendaya's public persona embodied a blend of charisma and consciousness that elevated her influence beyond traditional celebrity. The cultural ripple effect also extended into consumer behavior and market dynamics. Brands, media companies, and advertisers recognized the significance of aligning with figures like Zendaya who represented authenticity and inclusivity. Campaigns and partnerships increasingly reflected diverse identities and narratives, signaling a shift in how cultural capital was leveraged within commercial contexts. Zendaya's prominence influenced trends and strategies across entertainment and marketing industries. At the same time, the conversations prompted by her journey highlighted ongoing challenges and areas for growth. Discussions acknowledged that while progress had been made, systemic barriers and inequalities persisted within the industry and society at large. Zendaya's experience was both a beacon of hope and a reminder of the work yet to be done to achieve genuine equity and representation. Her story became a touchstone in broader movements advocating for social change, intersecting with dialogues on racial justice, gender equity, and cultural inclusion. Activists and organizations drew upon the visibility and momentum generated by her success to amplify calls for policy reforms and institutional accountability. Zendaya's narrative was woven into the fabric of contemporary social advocacy, symbolizing the confluence of culture and activism. The impact on fans was deeply personal and transformative. Many described how Zendaya's success challenged internalized limitations and societal expectations, encouraging them to pursue their own ambitions with renewed vigor. Her journey provided a framework for understanding resilience, self-worth, and the power of representation in shaping one's sense of possibility. This personal resonance translated into a broader cultural shift toward valuing diverse stories and voices. Within the entertainment industry, the dialogue sparked by Zendaya's experience influenced decision-making processes at multiple levels. Executives, producers, and creatives became more attuned to the cultural significance of representation, integrating these considerations into project development, casting, and marketing strategies. Her success underscored the interconnectedness of artistic integrity, cultural relevance, and commercial viability. The ongoing cultural conversations also fostered collaborative efforts among stakeholders committed to advancing diversity and inclusion. Partnerships between studios, advocacy groups, and educational institutions emerged, aiming to create sustainable pathways for underrepresented talent. Zendaya's story was central to these initiatives, providing both inspiration and a practical blueprint for fostering change. As these dialogues continued to evolve, Zendaya's journey remained a dynamic and influential narrative within the cultural zeitgeist. Her role transcended the confines of entertainment, embodying the transformative potential of storytelling to shape identities, challenge norms, and inspire collective progress. The conversations she ignited extended beyond fandom into the realms of social consciousness and cultural production. In this expansive cultural landscape, Zendaya stood as a symbol of resilience and empowerment, her story a testament to the power of representation to effect meaningful change. The ripple effects of her journey underscored the essential role of diverse voices in shaping the narratives that define society, illuminating pathways toward a more inclusive and equitable media environment. Her influence continued to inspire ongoing reflection and action, encouraging both industry insiders and the broader public to embrace the possibilities of authentic storytelling. Zendaya's journey was a living narrative of transformation, one that affirmed the importance of breaking stereotypes, elevating diverse perspectives, and fostering a media culture that truly reflects the richness of human experience. The echoes of Zendaya's journey reverberated through Hollywood's corridors long after the cameras had stopped rolling and the spotlight shifted to new stories. Her experience left an indelible imprint on the industry's landscape, a testament to the transformative power of challenging limiting labels and reshaping entrenched narratives. It was a legacy woven from resilience, talent, and a steadfast commitment to authenticity, a beacon lighting the path for future generations. Within studios and production offices, Zendaya's story became a reference point for conversations about representation and inclusion that had previously been relegated to the margins. Executives and creatives alike reflected on the lessons embedded in her rise, recognizing that the success she embodied was not an isolated phenomenon but a harbinger of a necessary evolution in storytelling. Her impact prompted a reevaluation of casting practices, narrative priorities, and the broader structures governing media production. As the industry grappled with these shifts, initiatives to foster diversity and equity gained renewed vigor, with Zendaya's experience frequently cited as a catalyst. Training programs expanded their reach, mentorship opportunities multiplied, and pathways for underrepresented talent were constructed with greater intentionality. Her journey underscored the importance of systemic change, a reminder that individual triumphs, while powerful, must be supported by institutional commitment. The narrative of transformation extended beyond Hollywood's gates, influencing cultural conversations and societal attitudes about representation and identity. Zendaya's story became emblematic of a broader movement toward inclusivity, inspiring artists, activists, and audiences to envision and demand media that reflected the full spectrum of human experience. Her presence was a symbol of progress, a visible assertion that stories could be richer, more varied, and more truthful. For emerging talent, Zendaya stood as a beacon of possibility. Her path demonstrated that barriers, however formidable, could be dismantled through perseverance, professionalism, and authenticity. Aspiring actors and creators found in her example both motivation and validation, a narrative that encouraged them to claim their space and reshape their own narratives. Her legacy was one of empowerment, extending far beyond the roles she portrayed. In the evolving tapestry of media and culture, Zendaya's influence shaped not only the stories told, but the way those stories were crafted and received. Her journey highlighted the interplay between representation, leadership, and cultural resonance, illustrating how diverse voices enrich artistic expression and strengthen audience connection. The industry's gradual embrace of these principles was a testament to the groundwork her success helped lay. This transformation was reflected in the stories that followed, narratives that embraced complexity, challenged stereotypes, and celebrated diversity in its myriad forms. Zendaya's legacy fostered an environment where innovation and inclusivity were intertwined, encouraging creators to explore new perspectives and audiences to engage with richer, more authentic content. The media landscape began to mirror the diversity of its viewership more faithfully. Beyond the creative realm, Zendaya's example influenced broader conversations about equity and justice in society. Her visibility and advocacy intersected with movements seeking systemic change, reinforcing the power of media as a tool for social transformation. She became a figure whose impact transcended entertainment, embodying the potential of storytelling to shape cultural values and inspire collective progress. Within this ongoing journey, Zendaya remained a touchstone, a reminder of the progress achieved and the work yet to be done. Her experience underscored the importance of vigilance and continued effort to ensure that inclusivity and representation were not fleeting trends but foundational principles. The legacy she forged was a call to action, urging the industry and society to uphold the values her journey exemplified. As new generations of artists and audiences emerged, Zendaya's story was woven into the fabric of cultural memory, a narrative of transformation and possibility. Her journey illuminated the pathways through which barriers could be broken and authentic voices amplified. In doing so, she helped reshape the contours of media and culture, leaving a lasting imprint on both. The industry's embrace of this legacy fostered a climate where diverse talent could flourish, narratives could be expanded, and audiences could see themselves reflected with honesty and respect. Zendaya's influence was a cornerstone of this cultural shift, a beacon guiding the evolution of storytelling toward greater inclusivity and resonance. Her story, marked by resilience and authenticity, became a symbol of hope and progress. It reinforced the idea that representation mattered profoundly, shaping not only individual careers but the collective imagination. Zendaya's legacy was one of transformation, illuminating the power of media to reflect and inspire the world it serves. In the quiet moments that followed her breakthrough, the impact of Zendaya's journey continued to unfold, in casting decisions, creative choices, and the hearts of those inspired by her example. Her experience stood as a testament to the enduring power of challenging norms, embracing diversity, and forging new narratives that honor the richness of human experience. This legacy, ever evolving and expansive, ensured that Zendaya's influence would be felt for years to come. It was a foundation upon which future generations could build, a narrative of possibility and change woven into the very fabric of Hollywood and beyond. Her story was not just one of personal triumph, but a beacon illuminating the path toward a more inclusive and authentic media landscape.